Let me tell you something that might change the way you look at your life starting today. You don't need to be perfect to win. You don't need to have everything figured out. You don't need to wake up tomorrow as a completely different person. You just need to be a little better than you were yesterday. That's it. That's the secret most people overlook because it sounds too simple. We live in a world obsessed with overnight success, dramatic transformations, and instant results. Social media shows the highlight reel. We see the finished product, the fit body, the successful business, the confident speaker, and we assume they made a giant leap. But what we don't see are the quiet mornings, the repeated efforts, the small improvements made consistently over time. Progress is not loud. It doesn't always look impressive. It's often boring, repetitive, and slow. But it is powerful. When you shift your focus from being perfect to being better, something inside you relaxes, the pressure drops, you stop trying to rewrite your entire life in one day and start asking a different question. What can I improve right now? Maybe yesterday you skipped your workout. Today you do 10 minutes. Yesterday you doubted yourself. Today you take one small action anyway. Yesterday you procrastinated. Today you start for just 5 minutes. Those tiny wins might not look like much, but stacked together, they become unstoppable. Momentum. Perfection paralyzes. Progress mobilizes. Progress mobilizes. Perfection says, if you can't do it flawlessly, don't do it at all. Progress says, do it messy. Do it scared. Just do it better than last time. And when you adopt that mindset, you begin to build confidence, not from outcomes, but from effort. You stop fearing mistakes because mistakes are no longer proof that you're not good enough. They're proof that you're trying. That's how growth really works, not in giant leaps, but in steady steps. Think about it. A building isn't constructed in a single day. It's built brick by brick. A muscle doesn't grow from one intense workout. It grows from repeated tension over time. Your character, your discipline, your confidence, they are built the same way. One choice at a time. One improved decision at a time. The problem is most people quit because they don't see dramatic results fast enough. They want visible change in a week. They want transformation in a month. But real growth is subtle at first. It happens beneath the surface. When you read 10 pages a day, you won't feel like a genius tomorrow. But do it for a year and you'll think differently. When you save a small amount consistently, you won't feel wealthy next week. But over time, you build security. When you practice your craft daily, it won't be extraordinary immediately. But one day, people will call you talented, not knowing it was discipline that got you there. Better than yesterday means embracing the long game. It means understanding that small improvements compound. 1% better every day may not seem significant, but over a year, it transforms you completely. And here's the beautiful part. Anyone can improve by 1%. It doesn't require genius. It doesn't require perfect conditions. It requires decision. The decision to try again, the decision to adjust, the decision to adjust, the decision to show up even when motivation is low. Because let's be honest, motivation comes and goes. Some days you'll feel unstoppable. Other days you'll feel tired, distracted, and doubtful. That's normal. That's human. But progress, others, normal. That's human. Doesn't depend on how you feel. It depends on how you feel. It depends on what you choose. And when you choose to improve even slightly, especially on the days you don't feel like it, that's when you separate yourself from who you used to be. That's when discipline begins to form. That's when self-respect starts to grow. You don't build confidence by waiting to feel confident. You build it by keeping small promises to yourself, by saying, I will do this, and then doing it, even if it's imperfect, even if it's small, especially when no one is watching. So stop overwhelming yourself with the idea that you need to become a whole new person overnight. You don't. You just need to win today. Improve one habit, strengthen one skill, correct one mistake, learn one lesson. Forgive yourself for yesterday's shortcomings, but don't repeat them. Use them. Let them teach you. Let them guide you forward. Growth is not about shaming yourself for where you are. It's about believing you are capable of more and taking one step toward it. And every step counts. Every effort matters. Every moment you choose progress over perfection, you are rewriting your identity. You are proving to yourself that change is possible. Over time, those small daily improvements will shape your mindset, sharpen your discipline, and strengthen your resilience. One day you'll look back and realize you didn't make one massive leap. You made hundreds of small, courageous choices. You chose to act instead of complain. You chose to improve instead of complain. You chose to improve instead of giving up. That is how greatness is built. Not in a burst of perfection, but in a pattern of progress. So wherever you are right now, whatever level you're at, whatever mistakes you made yesterday, remember this: you don't have to be perfect to be Pope. Wherefore, you just have to be better than you were before. You just have to be better than you were before. And if you commit to that, if you wake up each day with the intention to improve just a little, you will become unstoppable. Because the person who focuses on daily progress will always defeat the person waiting for perfect conditions. Be better than yesterday, starting now. Let's talk about something that silently destroys more dreams than failure ever could: comparison. The moment you start measuring your life against someone else's timeline, someone else's success, someone else's highlight reel, you lose focus on your own path. And here's the truth: the only real competition you have is the person you were yesterday. Not your neighbor, not your coworker, not the influencer on your screen, not the friend who seems to be moving faster than you. When you compete with others, you run a race that never ends, because there will always be someone ahead of you in some area. Someone richer, someone stronger, someone more experienced, someone more recognized. If your confidence depends on being ahead of others, it will always be fragile. But when you decide to compete with yourself, everything changes. The pressure shifts. The jealousy fades. The focus sharpens. Now the question becomes simple. Am I improving? Not am I better than them, but am I better than them? But am I better than I was? That shift alone can free you from anxiety and unlock your true potential. Because comparison makes you insecure about your weaknesses, while self-competition makes you committed to improving them. When you focus on your own growth, you reclaim your energy. Instead of wasting mental power wondering how someone else is winning, you invest it into building your own skills, strengthening your own habits, and developing your own discipline. And that is where real power lives. The war already. Power lives. The problem with comparison is that it blinds you to your own progress. You might be growing steadily, learning daily, becoming stronger in ways you don't even notice, but the moment you scroll through someone else's success, you feel behind. You forget how far you've come because you're too busy looking at how far someone else has gone. But you don't see their struggles. You don't see their struggles. You don't see their sacrifices. You don't see the years of quiet effort behind their current results. You're comparing your behind the scenes to someone else's highlight reel. That's not fair to you, and it's not accurate. Everyone starts at a different place. Everyone moves at a different pace. Some people find success early. Some find it later. Some face obstacles you'll never see. Some have advantages you'll never have. That's life. But none of that determines your ceiling. Your only responsibility is to maximize your potential, to improve your skills, to strengthen your mindset, to show up consistently. When you compete with yourself, you create a healthy standard. Yesterday you ran 1 mile. Today you run a little farther. Yesterday you doubted yourself. Today you act despite doubt. Yesterday you avoided discomfort. Today you lean into it. That's growth. And it's sustainable because it's personal. You're not trying to beat the world. You're trying to beat your excuses. You're not trying to silence critics. You're trying to silence the voice inside that says you can't. That's a battle worth fighting. And every time you win against your old habits, your old fears, your old limits, you build unshakable confidence. Not because you proved you're better than someone else, but because you prove you're better than someone else, but because you prove you're stronger than you used to be. That kind of confidence doesn't crumble when someone else succumbs. It doesn't disappear when someone else shines. It remains steady because it's rooted in self-respect. When you compete with yourself, other people's victories inspire you instead of intimidate you. You understand that their path is theirs and yours is yours. You stop rushing. You stop doubting your timeline. You stop feeling like you're late because you realize you're exactly where you need to be. As long as you're moving forward, Imagine what would happen if all the energy you spent comparing yourself was redirected into improving yourself. Think about the hours lost to jealousy, the confidence drained by scrolling, the motivation crushed by measuring your beginning against someone else's middle. Now imagine using that same energy to practice, to study, to train, to build, to reflect, to adjust. That's how transformation happens. Quietly, gradually, internally. When you compete with yourself, you become obsessed with growth. Not applause. You care more about progress than praise. You measure success by effort, not by attention. And that's powerful because it puts control back in your hands. You can't control someone else's speed. You can't control their opportunities. You can't control their recognition. You can't control their recognition, but you can't control your effort. You can't control your consistency. You can't control your attitude. And when you focus on what you can control, you become unstoppable. There will always be someone faster, smarter, or further ahead in some area, but there will never be another you with your exact potential, your exact perspective, your exact capacity for growth. Your job is not to outshine everyone. Your job is to outgrow your old self. Every day is a new chance to raise your standard, to refine your discipline, to strengthen your focus, to become sharper, wiser, and more resilient than you were before. That's the race that matters. That's the competition that builds character. So the next time you feel the urge to compare, pause and ask yourself one question. Am I improving? If the answer is yes, keep going. If the answer is no, adjust and move. But never measure your worth against someone else's journey. Measure it against your own effort, because the only person you need to defeat is the version of you that chose comfort over courage, excuses over effort, and fear over growth. Beat that person consistently and success becomes inevitable. Compete with who you were yesterday, and you will become someone your past self would never recognize. Let's go deeper, because this is where real transformation begins. Discipline creates confidence, not motivation, not talent, not luck. Discipline. Most people are waiting to feel confident before they take action. They're waiting to feel ready before they start. But confidence doesn't come first. Action does. And disciplined action, repeated over time, builds a belief in yourself that nothing can shake. Every time you tell yourself you're going to wake up early and you actually do it, something powerful happens internally. Every time you say you're going to train, study, practice, build, work, and you follow through, you strengthen your identity. You send a message to your mind. I keep my word. And when you become someone who keeps their word to themselves, your self-respect rises. That's where true confidence is born. Not from compliments, not from validation, not from social media likes, but from private victories, from doing what you said you would do long after the excitement fades. Discipline is not glamorous. It's quiet. It's repetitive. It's often uncomfortable. But it is the foundation of self-trust. And self-trust is the foundation of confidence. When you lack discipline, you begin doubting yourself. You set goals but don't follow through. You make promises but break them. Over time, your mind starts to question you. Can I really do this? Will I actually stick to it? That doubt grows not because you're incapable, but because you've trained yourself not to trust your own commitments. But the beautiful thing is this works both ways. Just as broken promises weaken confidence, kept promises strengthen it. And the size of the promise doesn't matter. It could be as small as drinking more water, reading 10 pages, or walking for 20 minutes. What matters is consistency. What matters is integrity with yourself. Discipline is you choosing long-term growth over short-term comfort. It's choosing to work when you don't feel like it. It's choosing to stay focused when distractions are everywhere. It's choosing to stay focused when distractions are everywhere. It's choosing to push through resistance when quitting would be easier. And every time you make that choice, you build mental strength. You prove to yourself that your feelings don't control you. You control your actions. Understand this clearly. Confidence is earned. It's built through evidence. You don't magically wake up believing in yourself. You gather proof. Proof that you can endure discomfort. Proof that you can stay consistent. Proof that you can stay consistent. Proof that you can finish what you start. Discipline gives you that proof daily. When you train consistently, you become confident in your body. When you study consistently, you become confident in your knowledge. When you practice consistently, you become confident in your skills. There's no shortcut around it in your skills. There's no shortcut around it. People often look at someone successful and say, they're so confident. But what they're really seeing is the result of disciplined preparation. Behind every confident performance are hours of unseen work. Behind every calm leader are years of controlled effort. Discipline removes fear because preparation removes fear because preparation removes uncertainty. When you know you've done the work, you walk differently, you speak differently, you carry yourself differently. Not because you're arrogant, but because you're prepared. Discipline also teaches you emotional control. It trains you to act based on decisions, not moods. Some days you'll feel motivated. Most days you won't. But discipline teaches you to move anyway. And when you move despite low motivation, you become dangerous in the best possible way. Because now you're not dependent on inspiration. You become dangerous in the best possible way. Because now you're not dependent, and commitment is stronger than emotion. Think about the areas of your life where you feel most confident. Chances are, those are the areas where you feel most confident. Chances are, those are the areas where you avoid effort. It grows where you invest time. So if you want more confidence, don't chase affirmation, build discipline, start small, stay consistent, increase your standard gradually. The more disciplined you become, the quieter your doubts get. Because doubt thrives in inaction, but it shrinks in the face of repeated effort. Here's what makes discipline so powerful. It reshapes your identity. At first, you force yourself to act. You push through resistance. You override excuses. But over time, something shifts. It stops feeling like force and starts feeling like force. And starts feeling like who you are. You're no longer someone trying to be disciplined. You are disciplined. You're no longer someone hoping to be confident. You are confident. Because you built evidence brick by brick, day by day. And the world responds differently to someone who trusts themselves. Opportunities feel less intimidating. Challenges feel less intimidating. Challenges feel less overwhelming. Criticism feels less destructive. Why? Because your confidence isn't built on fragile praise. It's built on solid discipline. And here's the most powerful part. Discipline gives you control. In a world full of uncertainty, trends, distractions, and noise, discipline centers you. It keeps you steady. It keeps you focused on your growth instead of reacting to everything around you. When you're disciplined, you don't panic when things get hard. You lean on your habits. You lean on your routines. You lean on the work you've already put in. That stability creates inner strength, and inner strength creates outer success. So if you are waiting to feel confident before you start, stop waiting. Start building discipline instead. Make one commitment today and honor it. Then repeat tomorrow and the next day and the next. Because every time you choose discipline over comfort, you're casting a vote for the person you want to become. You're proving to yourself that you are reliable, capable, strong. And when that proof stacks up, confidence becomes inevitable. You don't have to announce it. You don't have to pretend. It will show naturally in your posture, in your decisions, in your persistence. Discipline is the bridge between who you are and who you want to be. Cross it daily, and you won't just feel confident. You will know you are. Build discipline, and confidence will follow. Let's be honest about something we all face, but rarely admit. Doubt grows in stillness. Fear multiplies when you sit with it. The longer you wait, the bigger it becomes. You start with a small hesitation, just a tiny voice asking, what if I fail? But if you don't move, that whisper turns into a story. And that story turns into a belief. And that belief slowly convinces you not to even try. That's how dreams die. Not because people aren't capable, but because they hesitate too long. Action destroys doubt. Not thinking about action. Not planning endlessly. Not waiting for the perfect moment. Action. The first step is rarely comfortable. It's awkward. It's uncertain. It feels risky, but it is powerful. The moment you move, you interrupt fear. You send a signal to your brain that you are not controlled by hesitation. When you take action, even small action, you shift from imagining failure to creating possibility. Most fear lives in imagination. It's built on scenarios that haven't happened and often never will. You imagine embarrassment. You imagine rejection. You imagine rejection. You imagine judgment. But imagination without action becomes a prison. Action breaks that prison. The moment you start, the story changes. You gather information. You gain experience. You realize it wasn't as terrifying as you thought. And even if it is difficult, at least now you're growing. Movement creates clarity. Waiting creates anxiety. And the truth is, you will never feel 100% ready. There will always be uncertainty. There will always be risk. There will always be a risk. There will always be a reason to delay. But growth doesn't wait for comfort. It responds to courage. Courage isn't the absence of fear. It's movement despite fear. Every confident person you admire once felt unqualified. Every successful individual once doubted themselves. The difference is they acted anyway. They allowed action to teach them what overthinking never could. Think about how many opportunities are lost because people stay stuck in preparation mode. They research for months but never start. They plan endlessly but never execute. They talk about goals but never commit to steps. Planning has its place. Strategy matters. But there comes a moment when thinking must end and doing must begin, because confidence does not come from perfect plans. It comes from lived experience. You don't become brave by waiting to feel brave. You become brave by stepping into situations that scare you. The first conversation might be uncomfortable. The first attempt might be messy. The first result might not be impressive. But each action builds familiarity, and familiarity reduces fear. What once felt impossible begins to feel manageable. What once felt overwhelming becomes routine. This is how transformation works. Slowly, through repetition, through effort, through stepping forward again and again. Doubt feeds on delay. When you delay, you give your mind time to create excuses. Maybe next week, maybe when I'm more prepared, maybe when conditions are better. But conditions are rarely perfect. There will always be distractions. There will always be obstacles. There will always be obstacles. There will always be unknowns. Action doesn't eliminate obstacles, but it strengthens you to face them. And here's something powerful. Action creates momentum. Even the smallest step can trigger a chain reaction. You start with 5 minutes of effort and suddenly you're working for an hour. You make one phone call and it leads to an opportunity. You submit one application and it builds confidence to submit 10 more. Momentum is magical. It turns effort into energy, but momentum cannot exist without motion. You have to start. You have to move before you feel ready. And yes, you might fail. Yes, you might stumble. Yes, you might fail. Yes, you might feel uncomfortable. But failure in action is far more valuable than comfort and hesitation, because failure teaches. Failure sharpens. Failure strengthens. Inaction only preserves fear. And here's the most empowering part. Every time you take action, you rewrite your identity. You stop seeing yourself as someone who wishes and start seeing yourself as someone who wishes and start seeing yourself as someone who does. That shift is life-changing. When you act consistently, you build proof that you are capable of confronting challenges. You train your mind to associate fear with growth instead of danger. Instead of running from discomfort, you lean into it. Instead of overthinking, you execute. And over time, that pattern becomes who you are. Imagine what your life would look like if you acted the moment you felt inspired. If you applied when you doubted, if you spoke when you were nervous, if you started when it felt uncertain. Your world would expand, your skills would grow, your confidence would skyrocket. Not because everything worked perfectly, but because you proved to yourself that you are willing to try. That willingness is powerful. It separates dreamers from achievers. Dreams are beautiful, but they require movement. Vision without action is just imagination. Action turns vision into reality. So when fear whispers, let action answer. When doubt questions you, let action answer. When doubt questions you, let effort respond. When hesitation tries to hold you back, take one step forward anyway. Not because you feel fearless, but because you refuse to stay stuck. The path will reveal itself as you walk it. The skills will develop as you practice. The confidence will grow as you persist. You don't need certainty to begin. You need courage for one step, then another, then another. Over time, those steps build strength. They build resilience. They build belief. And belief built through action is unbreakable. Stop waiting for the perfect moment. Stop waiting to feel completely ready. Stop negotiating with fear. Move, even if it's small, even if it's imperfect, even if it's messy. Because every step forward shrinks doubt and strengthens you. Action is the cure. Action is the teacher. Action is the builder of confidence. Take the step now. Let's talk about comfort, because comfort is subtle. It doesn't look dangerous. It feels safe. It feels familiar. It feels warm. And that's exactly why it can quietly hold you back for years without you even realizing it. Your comfort zone is predictable. You know what to expect there. You know how to operate there. There's no risk of embarrassment, no threat of failure, no exposure of weakness, but there's also no growth. Nothing expands inside a space that demands nothing from you. Muscles don't grow without resistance. Skills don't improve without challenge. Confidence doesn't deepen without facing something uncertain. Yet most people build their lives around avoiding discomfort. They avoid difficult conversations. They avoid new opportunities. They avoid challenges that stretch them. And then they wonder why they feel stuck. Growth and comfort cannot coexist. The moment you choose growth, you choose temporary discomfort. You choose the awkward beginner stage. You choose the frustration of learning. You choose the vulnerability of trying. But that discomfort is not your enemy. It is evidence that you are expanding. Think about the first time you tried anything new. It felt unnatural, maybe even embarrassing. But with repetition, what was once uncomfortable became normal. That's how your comfort zone expands, not by wishing it would, but by stepping beyond it repeatedly. Every time you push yourself into a new level of difficulty, you stretch your limits, and what once felt impossible begins to feel achievable. The discomfort you fear today becomes the strength you rely on tomorrow. The key is understanding that discomfort is temporary, but growth is permanent. The pain of stretching lasts a moment. The pain of stretching lasts a moment. The benefit lasts a lifetime. If you always choose what feels easy, you stay exactly where you are. But if you consistently choose what challenges you, you transform. Here's the truth most people avoid. The life you want exists outside your current level of comfort. The stronger body, the sharper mind, the successful career, the confident presence, they all require actions you're not fully comfortable with yet. That's not a sign you're incapable. It's a sign you're growing. Discomfort is the bridge between your current self and your future self. And every time you refuse to cross that bridge, you delay your own evolution. Think about fear for a moment. Fear often appears when you're on the edge of growth, when you're about to do something meaningful, when you're about to step into a bigger version of yourself. Your mind tries to protect you by keeping you small and safe. It says, stay here. This is familiar, but familiar is not always fulfilling. Familiar can become frustrating. You know you're capable of more, but you keep repeating what's comfortable. That internal tension, that frustration you sometimes feel is your potential knocking. It's a reminder that you weren't designed to stay stagnant. You were designed to expand, but expansion requires pressure. Diamonds are formed under pressure. Strength is built under tension. Character is developed under tension. Character is developed under challenge. If you avoid every uncomfortable situation, you avoid the very experiences that shape you into someone stronger. And understand this clearly. Stepping outside your comfort zone does not mean reckless decisions. It means intentional growth. It means choosing the hard workout over the easy excuse. It means speaking up when silence would be simpler. It means applying even when rejection is possible. It means trying again after failure. Those moments define you. Those moments build resilience. Every time you lean into discomfort, you teach your mind that you can survive it. And once you realize you can survive it, you stop fearing it. That's when courage grows. That's when confidence deepens. That's when your identity shifts from someone who avoids difficulty to someone who avoids difficulty, someone who embraces it. Imagine who you would become if you treated discomfort as a signal for growth instead of a warning to retreat. What if nervousness meant opportunity? What if challenge meant expansion? What if fear meant you were on the edge of something important? Your entire life would change because instead of shrinking back, you would step forward. Instead of doubting yourself, you would test yourself. And with every test, you would discover new strength. The first time you push beyond your comfort zone, it feels overwhelming. The second time, it feels manageable. The second time, it feels manageable. The third time, it feels empowering. And eventually, what once intimidated you becomes part of your new normal. That's how transformation happens, not in giant dramatic leaps, but in repeated acts of courage. And here's something powerful. When you consistently choose discomfort in pursuit of growth, you build unshakable resilience. Life will always bring challenges, unexpected setbacks, difficult seasons, unexpected setbacks. But if you've trained yourself to face discomfort willingly, those challenges won't break you. They will refine you because you'll already know that pressure produces growth. You'll already know that pressure produces growth. You'll already know that you can endure difficulty. You'll already know that stepping into the unknown is where your essays. Strength multiplies, so stop asking, how can I stay comfortable? Start asking, how can I grow today? Seek out challenges that stretch you. Welcome tasks that intimidate you. Lean into conversations that require courage. Every uncomfortable step you take expands your capacity. Every difficult action strengthens your character. Every difficult action strengthens your character. Every bold decision reshapes your future. You are not meant to live a small, safe life. You are meant to evolve, and evolution demands discomfort. So when it feels hard, when it feels uncertain, when it feels intimidating, remind yourself that this is the feeling of growth. This is the feeling of growth. This is the feeling of becoming. This is the feeling of stepping into a stronger version of yourself. Don't retreat. Don't shrink. Don't settle. Step forward anyway, because everything you want is waiting on the other side of comfort. Step outside your comfort zone and step into who you are meant to become. Everything begins in the mind. Before you take action, before you build discipline, before you step outside your comfort zone, there is a thought. And that thought either moves you forward or holds you back. Your mindset determines your direction because your life will always follow the strongest belief you consistently hold about yourself. If deep down you believe you are limited, incapable, unlucky, or behind, your actions will reflect that belief. You'll hesitate. You'll play small. You'll avoid risks. But if you believe even before you see evidence that you can grow, improve, adapt, and overcome, your behavior changes. You begin to try. You begin to persist. You begin to look at obstacles differently. The external world responds to internal standards. Two people can face the exact same challenge and walk away with completely different outcomes. One sees difficulty and thinks, this is proof I'm not good enough. The other sees the same difficulty and thinks, this is making me better. The situation didn't change. The mindset did, and that difference changes everything. Your mindset is the lens through which you interpret life. It determines whether you see setbacks as stop signs or stepping stones. It determines whether you interpret criticism as an attack or as information. It determines whether you view failure as an identity or as an event. When your mindset is fixed, you believe your abilities are static. You think talent is something you either have or don't have. And when you fail, you take it personally. You retreat. But when your mindset is focused on growth, you retreat. But when your mindset is focused on growth, you understand that skills are built, not born. You understand that intelligence expands with effort. You understand that discomfort is part of development. That belief fuels resilience. That belief fuels consistency. That belief aligns perfectly with becoming better than yesterday because it allows you to see improvement as always possible. Think about the conversations you have with yourself daily. The quiet thoughts no one else hears. When something goes wrong, what do you say internally? Do you say, I always mess things up? Or do you say, what can I learn from this? When something feels hard, do you think, this isn't for me? Or do you think, this isn't for me? Or do you think, this is stretching me? Those subtle internal responses shape your trajectory more than any external circumstance. If you constantly reinforce negative narratives, you slowly build a prison in your own mind. But if you constantly challenge limiting thoughts, you create space for expansion. Mindset is not about pretending everything is easy or ignoring reality. It's about choosing empowering interpretations. It's about recognizing that while you may not control every outcome, you control your response, and your response determines your growth. A strong mindset doesn't eliminate struggle, it reframes it. It reframes it. It says, this is difficult, but I am capable. It says, I don't know how yet, but I can learn. That single word, yet, is powerful. It transforms inability into potential. Instead of saying, I can't do this, you say, I can't do this yet. That keeps the door open. That keeps momentum alive. Your direction in life is rarely determined by a single decision. It's determined by repeated thoughts. Repeated beliefs become habits. Habits become actions. Actions become results. So if you want different results, you must begin with different beliefs. You must become aware of the mental patterns running in the background. Are they empowering you or limiting you? Are they pushing you forward or pulling you backward? The moment you take control of your mindset, you reclaim power. The moment you take control of your mindset, you reclaim power. You stop being a victim of circumstances and start becoming a creator of outcomes. And that aligns with everything we talked about: progress over perfection, competing with yourself, building discipline, taking action, stepping outside comfort. None of those can survive long-term without the right mindset supporting them. Now understand this clearly. Your mindset is trainable. It is not fixed. It is shaped by what you consume, what you practice, what you repeat. If you constantly feed your mind negativity, doubt, comparison, and fear, your outlook will reflect that. But if you intentionally feed it growth, challenge, learning, and belief, your mental framework strengthens. This requires awareness. It requires catching yourself when you default to excuses. It requires interrupting self-criticism and replacing it with self-coaching. Imagine speaking to yourself the way a great mentor would. Encouraging but honest, challenging but supportive. Instead of saying, I'm not good enough, you say, I need more practice. Instead of saying, this is impossible, you say, this is impossible. You say, this will require effort. That subtle shift fuels persistence, and persistence creates transformation. Your direction in life is rarely dramatic. It shifts gradually based on the beliefs you rehearse daily. If you believe improvement is always possible, you'll continue to improve. If you believe you're capable of adapting, you'll keep adapting. You'll keep adapting. And over time, that belief compounds into results that once seemed out of reach. You begin to see challenges as invitations. You begin to see failure as feedback. You begin to see failure as feedback. You begin to see effort as investment. That mindset keeps you moving even when results are slow. It keeps you grounded when progress feels invisible. It keeps you committed when motivation fades, because you understand that growth is happening beneath the surface. And when your mindset aligns with growth, you stop fearing hard days. You understand that every tough moment is shaping you. Every obstacle is strengthening you. Every obstacle is strengthening you. Every lesson is sharpening you. So guard your mind, protect your thoughts. Choose beliefs that move you forward, because your life will follow your dominant mindset. If you believe you can improve, you will. If you believe you can adapt, you will. If you believe you can adapt, you will. If you believe you can rise above your current level, you will. Your direction is not determined by where you start, but by what you consistently believe about where you can go. Choose growth. Choose belief about where you can go. Choose growth. Choose the mindset that pushes you forward, because the person who controls their thoughts controls their future. Change your mindset and you change your direction. Let's clear something up right now. Motivation is powerful, but it is unreliable. It feels incredible when it's there. It gives you energy, excitement, momentum. You watch something inspiring. You hear powerful words. You feel ready to change your life overnight. But then a few days pass. The excitement fades. The routine feels heavy. The alarm rings early. The work feels repetitive. And suddenly, that motivation you depended on disappears. This is where most people stop. Not because they lack ability, not because they lack dreams, but because they built their progress on emotion instead of commitment. Consistency beats motivation every single time. Motivation gets you started. Consistency keeps you going. And long-term success belongs to those who show up whether they feel like it or not. Think about it. If you only worked on your goals when you felt inspired, how often would you actually work? Feelings change daily. Some mornings you feel unstoppable. Other mornings you feel tired, distracted, uncertain. If your actions depend on your mood, your progress will always be unstable. But when you build consistency, you remove emotion from the decision. You don't ask yourself, do I feel like doing this? You tell yourself, this is what I do. That shift in identity is powerful. It turns effort into habit. It turns discipline into routine. And routines are stronger than moods. The person who succeeds is not always the most talented. It's the one who refuses to break the pattern. The one who trains on bad days. The one who studies when it's boring. The one who practices when no one is watching. Small actions, repeated daily, create massive results over time. It's not intensity that changes your life. It's consistency. Look at any area of growth: fitness, business, learning, personal development. The results always come from repeated effort. One intense workout doesn't transform your body. One productive day doesn't build a career. One productive day doesn't build a career. One powerful speech doesn't change your life unless it leads to consistent action. Progress is built in ordinary days, the quiet days, the days when no one applauds you, the days when it feels like nothing is happening. That's where consistency works its magic. It compounds. It builds momentum slowly and steadily. And here's something important. Consistency doesn't mean perfection. It means persistence. It means you show up even if you can only give 70%. It means you adjust when you fall short, but you don't quit. Too many people give up because they miss one day, they break a streak and think it's over. But consistency is not about never slipping. It's about never stopping. It's about returning again and again. Imagine two people starting at the same point. One waits for motivation. The other commits to daily action. At first, their results look similar, but months later, the consistent one has built habits, skills, endurance, resilience. The motivated one has bursts of progress followed by long pauses. Over time, the gap becomes undeniable, not because of talent, but because of repetition. Consistency builds confidence because it creates proof. Every day you show up, you strengthen self-trust. You prove to yourself that you are reliable. And reliability builds belief. When you know you'll act regardless of mood, doubt loses power. You stop negotiating with yourself. You stop negotiating with yourself. You stop making excuses. You build a rhythm that carries you forward even when energy is low. That rhythm becomes your advantage because while others are waiting to feel ready, you already working. There will be days when you don't feel ready. You already working. There will be days when you don't feel inspired. Days when progress feels invisible. Days when results seem far away. That's normal. That's part of the journey. But those are the days that matter most. Anyone can work when they feel excited. Few can work when they feel tired. And that difference separates average from exceptional. Consistency teaches patience. It teaches resilience. It teaches you that success is not a single moment. It's a pattern. And patterns shape identity. When you consistently act in alignment with your goals, you begin to see yourself differently. You're no longer someone who tries. You're someone who commits. You're someone who commits. You're someone who finishes. You're someone who keeps going. That identity shift changes everything. Because once you see yourself as consistent, quitting feels unnatural. Skipping feels uncomfortable. You built a standard. And that standard pulls you forward. So don't chase motivation, create systems. Create routines. Decide in advance what you will do and when you will do it. Remove the daily debate. Reduce the friction. Make it automatic. The less you rely on emotion, the more stable your progress becomes. And remember, results often lag behind effort. You might not see change immediately, but if you stay consistent, the breakthrough will come. The strength will build. The skill will sharpen. The opportunity will appear because consistency compounds quietly until it becomes undeniable. So when motivation fades, and it will, don't stop. Show up anyway. Work anyway, because the person who refuses to break the chain will always outperform the person who waits for inspiration. Stay consistent and let time amplify your effort. Let's talk about something that stops more people than lack of talent, lack of resources, or lack of opportunity ever could. Failure, the failure, the memory of it, the shame attached to it. For many people, failure feels final. It feels like a verdict on their ability, their intelligence, their worth. But failure is not the end of your story. It is feedback. It is information. It is instruct. Estission, and if you learn how to see it correctly, becomes one of the most powerful tools for growth you will ever experience. The problem is not failure itself. The problem is the meaning you attach to it. If you believe failure defines you, you will avoid risks. You will play small. You will protect your ego instead of pursuing your potential. But if you understand that failure refines you, you will lean into challenges. You will lean into challenges. You will experiment. You will grow faster than those who are afraid to try. Think about every skill you have today. At some point, you were bad at it. You struggled. You made mistakes. You felt awkward, but you didn't label yourself a failure. You accepted that you were learning. Somewhere along the way, as we grow older, we begin to fear looking inexperienced. We begin to fear being judged, so we stop trying new things. We begin to fear being judged, so we stop trying new things. We avoid situations where we might fail publicly. But growth has always required falling short first. Failure is simply proof that you stepped outside your comfort zone. It is proof that you attempted something beyond your current ability. And that is not weakness, that is courage. Every successful person you admire has failed more times than you can count. The difference is they didn't stop at failure, they studied it, they adjusted, they tried again. Failure gave them clarity. It showed them what didn't work so they could refine what would. Without failure, there is no improvement. Without mistakes, there is no improvement. Without mistakes, there is no mastery. When you shift your perspective, failure transforms from an enemy into a teacher. Instead of asking, why did this happen to me? You begin asking, what is this teaching me? That question alone gives you power because now you are not a victim of the situation. You are a student of it. Every setback contains a lesson. Every setback contains a lesson. Maybe it reveals a weakness in preparation. Maybe it exposes a gap in skill. Maybe it highlights a mindset that needs strengthening. Whatever it shows you, it is valuable, but only if you are willing to look at it honestly. Growth requires reflection. It requires humility. It requires the courage to admit I can do better. But that admission is not self-criticism. It's self-development. Think about it. If you never failed, you would never need to adapt. If you never need to adapt, if you never struggled, you would never build resilience. If everything worked on the first try, you would never discover your true capacity. Some of the strongest traits you will ever develop, passions, perseverance, grit, or born in moments of difficulty. When things don't go your way, you have a choice. You can retreat and let disappointment define you, or you can rise and let it refine you. The pain of failure is temporary. The lesson can last forever. And often what feels like a setback is actually a redirection. Sometimes failure protects you from a path that wasn't aligned. Sometimes it forces you to prepare more deeply. Sometimes it strengthens you for something greater ahead. You may not see it immediately, but time often reveals that failure was necessary. It slows you down just enough to build the foundation you were missing. It humbles you just enough to keep you teachable. It challenges you just enough to unlock your next level. But this only happens if you stay in the game. If you quit at the first sign of struggle, you never collect the wisdom failure offers. And here's the powerful truth. Failure only becomes permanent when you stop trying. As long as you are willing to adjust and continue, you are not defeated. You are developing. The world may see a failed attempt. You must see progress in disguise. B, because every time you get back up, you strengthen your identity. You prove to yourself that your setbacks do not control you. You prove that your courage is stronger than your embarrassment. And that builds unshakable confidence. The kind of confidence that is not afraid to risk again. The kind of confidence that understands growth is messy. When you stop fearing failure, you unlock freedom, freedom to try boldly, freedom to experiment, freedom to stretch beyond your current limits, and that freedom accelerates your progress. Imagine how much further you would be if you stopped letting past mistakes define your future decisions. Imagine how much stronger you would become if you treated every loss as data instead of defeat. You would move differently. You would recover faster. You would grow consistently. So don't run from failure. Analyze it. Learn from it. Use it. Let it sharpen your strategy and strengthen your resolve. Because the road to mastery is paved with mistakes. The journey to success is built on corrected errors. And the person who wins is not the one who never fails, but the one who refuses to quit after failing. Fall forward. Learn quickly, rise stronger, and remember, failure is not the opposite of success. It is part of it. Embrace the lesson and keep moving forward. Big dreams are inspiring. They light a fire inside you. They give you vision. They give you something to aim at. But here's where most people go wrong. They fall in love with the dream and ignore the daily discipline required to build it. They focus on the mountain, forget the step in front of them. They imagine the future version of themselves, but neglect the small actions that create that person. The truth is, big dreams are not achieved in giant leaps. They are built through small daily wins. S through tiny improvements, through consistent effort that seems almost insignificant in the moment. You don't wake up one day suddenly successful, confident, strong, or accomplished. You wake up one day realizing that the small things you did every day have finally compounded into something powerful. That's why focusing on daily wins is so important. It keeps you grounded in action instead of overwhelmed by distance. When you look at the full journey, it can feel intimidating. The gap between where you are and where you want to be can feel massive. But when you narrow your focus to today, just today, the task becomes manageable. Instead of asking, how will I achieve this huge goal? You ask, what is one thing I can do today to move forward? That shift changes everything. It replaces anxiety with clarity. It replaces pressure with purpose. It reminds you that progress is built in the present moment. Every single day gives you an opportunity to win. Maybe it's waking up when you said you would. Maybe it's choosing discipline over distraction. Maybe it's learning something new. Maybe it's improving your attitude when things don't go your way. These may not look like dramatic victories, but they matter. They build momentum. They reinforce identity. They prove to you that you are serious about growth. The power of daily wins lies in compounding. A 1% improvement doesn't feel like much, but 1% every day transforms you completely over time. Small improvements stack. Small habits, small improvements stack. Small choices shape character. When you commit to daily progress, you stop chasing perfection and start building consistency. You understand that some days will be better than others, but every day offers a chance to improve something. And here's something important. Daily wins are within your control. You can't always control outcomes. You can't always control outcomes. You can't always control how fast results show up, but you can control your effort today. You can't control your focus today. You can't control your attitude today. When you define success by daily effort instead of distant results, you stay motivated longer because you're not waiting months for proof. You're creating proof every single day. And those small proofs build confidence. Imagine someone who commits to reading 10 pages a day. It doesn't feel life-changing, but after a year, they've read thousands of pages. Their thinking expands, their perspective sharpens, their communication improves, or someone who trains for 30 minutes daily. At first, changes are subtle, but months later, their body is stronger, their discipline is sharper, their energy is sharper, their energy is higher. It wasn't one extraordinary workout that changed them. It was the accumulation of ordinary days. The same principle applies to mindset, skills, relationships, finances, everything. The daily standard you set determines the long-term result you experience. And when you focus on daily wins, you remove the temptation to quit. Because you're not trying to conquer everything at once. You're just winning today. Then tomorrow, you win again. That rhythm builds resilience. It builds identity. It builds identity. It builds unstoppable momentum. Here's where this becomes powerful. You start to measure your life differently. Instead of measuring success by applause, you measure it by alignment. Did you do what you said you would do today? Did you improve something, even slightly? Did you move forward, even if only a step? If the answer is yes, you won. And when you stack enough daily wins, the big dream no longer feels distant. It starts to feel inevitable because you've built the habits required to sustain it. You've built the discipline required to protect it. You've built the discipline required to protect it. You've built the mindset required to handle it. Big success without daily discipline is fragile, but big success built on daily wins is stable. It lasts. And here's another truth. Daily wins build self-respect. Every time you follow through on a small commitment, you strengthen trust in yourself. You become someone who executes, not just imagines, and that identity is powerful. When challenges arise, you don't panic. You rely on your habits. You rely on your consistency. You rely on the fact that you've been showing up daily. That gives you quiet confidence. So don't underestimate small progress. Don't dismiss minor improvements. Don't overlook ordinary effort. That's where greatness is formed. In the repetition, in the discipline, in the quiet victories no one else sees. 1% better today. One more rep, one more page, one more attempt, one more discipline choice. Over time, those small actions create massive transformation. So stop waiting for a breakthrough moment. Create breakthrough habits. Focus on winning the day in front of you. Because when you master today, you build tomorrow. And when you stack enough toe days together, you build the life you once thought was impossible. Win the day, every day, and the big dream will take care of itself. Let's conference something that silently sabotages more people than any external obstacle. Excuses. Excuses are comfortable. They make you feel justified. They make you believe you're limited by circumstances instead of choices. I don't have time. I'm too tired. I'll start tomorrow. It's too hard. We all say them. We all believe them at times. But excuses are nothing more than permission to stay small. They are chains disguised as reasons. And the problem is, the longer you allow excuses to control you, the more they become habits. They become part of your identity. You begin to see yourself as someone who can't, instead of someone who can't, instead of someone who does. And once that mindset takes hold, it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. You stop taking responsibility for progress. You stop challenging yourself. You stop showing up. The truth is, life will always give you reasons to hesitate. There will always be obstacles, distractions, setbacks, and limitations. Some are real. Most are perceived. But if you let excuses guide your choices, nothing will ever change. Your goals will remain distant. Your goals will remain distant. Your potential will remain untapped. And your dreams will remain just that, dreams. The difference between those who achieve and those who achieve and those who don't is not opportunity, talent, or luck. It is ownership. It is the refusal to let excuses dictate the terms of your life. It is the decision to act despite discomfort, uncertainty, or fear. Excuses disappear when you decide your future is more important than your comfort. When you stop negotiating with yourself and start demanding progress, you begin to take control. Excuses often feel valid because they are rooted in reality. Life is busy. Responsibilities are heavy. Motivation fluctuates. But the people who achieve greatness are not those with perfect circumstances. They are those who act despite imperfect circumstances. They understand that waiting for ideal conditions is a trap. There will never be a perfect moment to start. There will never be a perfect moment to start. There will never be zero risk. There will never be complete certainty. If you wait for all conditions to align, you will wait for all conditions to align. You will wait forever. The person who rises above excuses learns to move in spite of fear, doubt, and inconvenience. They learn to prioritize what matters most, to take initiative, and to create momentum where none seems possible. Each time you choose action over an excuse, you build self-trust. You reinforce the belief that you are capable. You reinforce the identity of someone who delivers, someone who perseveres, someone who refuses to settle. Excuses might make you feel temporarily comfortable, but progress is never comfortable. Growth is never comfortable. Success is never comfortable. And the sooner you accept that, the sooner you break free from the trap of delay. Every time you say, I can't today, or maybe later, you rob yourself of an opportunity to improve. But every time you say, I will take action now, you reclaim control over your life. You prove that you are stronger than your doubts, braver than your fear, and more committed than your hesitation. Ownership transforms excuses into fuel for persistence, for improvement, for momentum. It changes your perspective from victim to creator, from passive to active, from victim to creator, from passive to active, from reactive to unstoppable. Here's the ultimate truth. Excuses are the enemy of progress, but responsibility is its greatest ally. Every step you take without waiting, every action you take without permission, every choice you make to push forward, even when it's hard, dismantles the power of excuses. They shrink in the face of action. They dissolve in the presence of commitment. And once you master the art of refusing excuses, you unlock a life few ever experience. You no longer wait for permission. You no longer wait for permission. You no longer wait for the perfect moment. You no longer let circumstances define your limits. Instead, you operate from a place of agency, of power, of deliberate action. Life becomes a series of choices, and you choose consistently to advance. Each day, you act despite excuses. You strengthen discipline, resilience, and confidence. Each day, you refuse to justify delay. You prove to yourself that you are capable of more than yesterday. And over time, that accumulation of decisions creates momentum so strong that no obstacle can stop you. Excuses will always whisper in your ear, but you will respond with action. Excuses will try to hold you back, but you will respond with persistence. Excuses will attempt to define your limits, but you will respond with growth. Your potential is not limited by your circumstances. It is limited only by the stories you tell yourself. Stop telling stories that weaken you. Stop listening to the voice that convinces you to wait. Start today. Take responsibility. Take action. Refuse excuses and watch how unstoppable you become.